Hello everyone, and welcome to another ASUG affiliate webcast. My name is Susan Revelletto, Membership Support Specialist here at ASUG headquarters in Chicago. I will be your moderator for this event. I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to join us for this presentation. Today's webcast, How to Consolidate Non-SAP ERP Data into SAP S for HANA, is brought to you by Magnitude Software. Today's webcast is being recorded. That recording and the accompanying slides will be posted to the ASUG website, and all registrants will receive an email with the link to those materials. Our speakers today are Carsten Hilker, Global Solution Owner from SAP, Darren Pierce, CTO of Magnitude Software, John Hume, Technology Consulting Manager of Magnitude Software. I'd like to remind our audience members that you can submit questions at any time during the presentation by clicking the purple Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. And now I'd like to turn it over to Darren Pierce.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's session. We've got a packed agenda and a really exciting group of presenters. So first up, and from an agenda perspective, we're going to introduce you to just give you an overview of the S/4HANA capabilities. And Carsten Hilker will take us through not only an overview of the capabilities, but also a path to how you can take advantage of S/4HANA either alongside or as the core foundation of your system. Second, we're going to switch over to John Hume, who's going to take us through the solution architecture for RTD Stream. RTD Stream is a product that we recently launched in collaboration with SAP to support consolidation of data from heterogeneous sources onto S/4HANA, and is obviously a critical enabler in an environment which is increasingly heterogeneous. And then John's going to take us through some examples of the kind of transactional coverage that is provided and support is provided for S4 in terms of consolidation of data into the central journal, into S4HANA, and summarize with strategic value. We should wrap up with a few minutes to spare to cover Q&A. And so with that, I'd like to turn the mic over to Carsten Hilker, Solution Owner for S4HANA.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Let me start with how you can get as a customer to S4, and that will then basically lead back to a scenario that we call Central Finance, which I am the Global Solution Owner for. So if you look at where currently our customers are, they are on ERP systems. And if you have only one system, then you can upgrade basically the database to an in-memory database, and you can upgrade the functional layer to the S4HANA layer. And that functional layer gives you some changes on the data model side, but also improvements on the user interface and transaction processing side. Very few customers only have a single instance. Most customers have more than one instance, a heterogeneous system landscape out of SAP and non-SAP source systems. So if you look at the right side, what we can do is a scenario called Central Finance. We stand up a S4HANA instance on the side in addition to the additional systems, and that becomes a centrally installed S4 system, which we then call Central Finance. What's key is that this is a non-disruptive deployment scenario. You don't have to do any changes to the source systems, and you can introduce it basically providing business continuity to your user community. Now, what's really important is today, also from a project perspective, is not only can you adopt S4HANA via the Central Finance deployment option without disruption, but you can also start these projects immediately because the Central Finance solution is available in the cloud. So if you want to start your project tomorrow morning, all you need is your credit card and the name and the billing address, then you have your system ready to be built out. And then you can transfer that onto a productive cloud system or a productive on-premise solution later on. In order to basically look at and assess why Central Finance is a good idea, why it's a good idea to bring the data together from several source systems into a new S4 system, I want to go through some key changes that we have in our S4 solution. What you see here is basically a single source of truth approach that we have developed with a universal journal called the table AC.A at the core of it. So we take basically all existing modules that are there, were there in ERP. We're going to continue to use them, but rather than storing the tables individually on a module level, we now bring the data in and store it in one big table. It's over 350 fields wide. It includes all the fields that were basically in the source modules already. So it is a concatenation of all the values. It can be really long. We have a customer that has a HANA table with 200 billion records of point of sale data, 200 billion with the B, 500 concurrent users, and no query takes longer than 3 seconds. So this thing is now really wide, really long. It's your central financial repository of all those transactions. And if you deploy that, obviously in conjunction with central finance, this will be a mirror of all financial transactions in the source system. So it's a complete financial picture of all your transactions in one table, accessible to you for reporting, analysis, and transaction process execution. With all that data available in one table now, you get a lot of advantage out of it. This is an example of a trial balance, where you now on the site see basically every single field as a selection option. So no longer do you have to jump from report to report. It's all basically available in one user interface. If you look at a line item browser, we've always had that, but you had to be really careful as to which dimensions you selected, what you put in your selection parameters to not get a timeout. Now you can basically go into every single line item, the lowest level, every single transaction. You can have all 200 billion transactions if you want to, with all 355 dimensions if you want to. So now it really became a real line item browser. What is really cool is that also this table now can be consumed by different kind of end user tools. At the forefront, I think, would be Excel. Every financial analyst uses Excel, and now you can basically open that universal journal, much like in a financial pivot table via Excel. So it's the same Excel that the customers use. There would be a new ribbon that says open, and instead of a local file, it would be the universal journal. And now you have all those transactions available in an Excel pivot table format. Even more, if you make a posting at month end, you hit on refresh, and that posting will immediately show up. So no longer do you have to go to your IT department to request certain data, jump from report to report. You have it all there, and you make adjusting postings. You hit refresh, and this information will be right there. If you look also at another aspect of having access to data immediately, a good example would be the KPI model and the KPI repository. You see at the center our Fiori Launchpad. This is how we basically render a lot of information in S4. These are tiles, you can click on it. They're corresponding to some of the transactions we had in the past. Not necessarily a one-to-one match, but that's how the users in S4 access basically information and transactions in here. So the key here is basically that you can have a real-time KPI calculated at all times, much like a stock ticker, and have that basically available to you in your organization. Especially in an environment with heterogeneous system landscapes, you will now have a standardized set of information points, like revenue is 500, not 480, not 520, to use in your organizations. What I already mentioned in the context of Excel, for example, is that data now will become immediately consumable by SAP front ends, by front ends like Excel, maybe by Click or Tableau solutions, and that the need for a dedicated operational BW system will dramatically be reduced. So if you look now at central finance at the approach, it's something that our customers have done for a long time. Right? Customers have used for the last 10 to 15 years centrally deployed ERP systems. What is different is that these days, under the umbrella of central finance, we have packaged that solution as a combination of product and content and use rights that you see here to basically have a standard process towards getting the data from a system into SAP with corresponding mapping and error processing capabilities, which is why we're talking in this webcast today about how to bring data in and about the solution that Magnitude has collaborated with us on. If you look at what you can do with such a system, the importance of bringing the data together, of course, the first one would be reporting. You have now these advanced capabilities like Excel that you have available to you. You can do segment reporting, which means you can bring data in and improve it on the fly by adding different dimensions. You can bring in color of the product, age of the customer. You can bring the time of the day, the temperature of the day in, and have better segment reporting. You can have entity reporting for the entities that you load the data in. So instead of going to their source system, either on SAP or Oracle PeopleSoft JD and run a balance sheet, they can do this with more advanced tools on the SAP side. Or you can have group reporting where you do some group consolidated information reporting in there because you used consolidation functionality basically within that central finance system now. If you look at having the data replicated, you can also use that for transaction processing. We see a lot of use in intercompany reconciliation and settlement. We see a lot of use in FSCM, central credit collections disputes. We see a lot of use in areas like central APAR forthcoming, and of course, to do centrally planning and consolidation as well is something that we're looking at as well. So the central finance approach gives you not only the entrance into the new S4 world, but allows you for improved, better reporting analytics, but also consolidated reporting analytics and transaction processing. As such, the provision of the data from these different source systems is really key. If you look at the process execution capabilities that we have, what you see on the slide is our standard finance value map. And on this slide, what we have here is a list of all the transactions that are good candidates for central deployment. This is a list as of June. The updated list as of October is forthcoming. We're pulling that together right now, but as you see, it could be anything from reporting analytics to the financial accounting, management accounting, intercompany, down to accounts payables and receivables, and on the planning consolidation side as well, capabilities in here. What's really important too is once you have stood up such a platform, it can also be used for further processes. So if you said as an organization, I want to have only one system, like a Ariba for indirect procurement, that could interact directly with that central finance system. So in this case, I think it's really important then to look at, for example, your vendor master data and make sure that if you have both incoming payments from direct payments from the source system as well as indirect from the vendors that you aligned us, which is, again, why replication of transactions and master data is really important, which is why we're here today. And with that, I'll hand it back. What I wanted to do is give you a quick overview of how to get to S4, how to get to S4 in an environment where you have more than one source system, what you can do with it, and now I'll give it back to our friends from Magnitude to tell you about how to get the data in. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Karsten. This is John Hume, and I want to take you through the meat of the Magnitude portion of this before we wrap up with Q&A. A little bit about Magnitude software. We have been doing and have deep knowledge and expertise in reporting, analytics, BI, master data management, and connectivity solutions. Have been doing this for a long period of time. Specifically and related to this presentation, we have very deep knowledge of Oracle and Oracle's ERPs, JD Edwards, PeopleSoft eBusiness Suite, and have products surrounding those ERPs, but built on SAP technology, such as using data services to move data into packaged data warehouses for Oracle ERPs. That is the product that we call Rapid Decision that we've had for a long period of time. Also leveraging business objects on the front end to do reporting against those repositories. We can even house those repositories, those data warehouses on HANA database. So very much aligned in expertise in both the Oracle ecosystem, but also the SAP ecosystem. And so we were a prime target for SAP to come to a little over a year ago and to help them solve a problem. When they were first launching the S4, back then Simple Finance, now S4, and specifically within this central finance or sidecar implementation approach, there's a lot of value to be had with S4 as a platform and as an ERP. When you do a central finance approach, there's going to be, as Karsten said, many other ERP systems in those environments. The second largest ERP provider behind SAP being Oracle. So how do you bridge that gap? How do you get data from those Oracle systems, which may not be going away right away, if ever, but how do you get the data from those systems as those transactions are processing into S4 in a graceful manner? So there's a lot of challenges, and if you were to build this, which somebody could, you must have expertise, both functionally and technically, in both the sources, say in the Oracle systems or the non-SAP systems, and in the target in S4 HANA. You then have to be able to design, model, build a solution that takes the data. So there's a lot of technical components to that, and to do that really without impacting the source systems and really without impacting IT significantly from a total cost of ownership and ongoing maintenance perspective. So if you can do those things, then you can realize a lot of the value that S4 provides, such as centralizing and consolidating your financials, providing global visibility to that data, consolidating processing and transaction posting and financial close processes. But until you get all of your data from those other ERPs interfaced into S4, there's still potential that is unrealized on the S4 side. So that is exactly what our RTD Stream product from Magnitude is designed to do. And we worked very, very closely with Karsten and the rest of the SAP teams in development to come up with this solution that captures all of this intellectual property as a product versus a build-your-own type of a solution. So I'll take you through the architecture a little bit. Again, in a central finance approach, you've got your S4 system, which is on the right here. You may have legacy or other SAP systems. SAP takes care of that data movement or that data migration, which may be an upgrade or it may be an ongoing posting process. But what do you do about the non-SAP data sources, the legacy ERPs, the Oracle systems out there? How do you get that data over? So RTD Stream is designed to do just that, and leveraging a lot of the IP that we have created through other products through the years in Oracle and using SAP technology, we've captured that and bundled it into a data integration component, which captures changes as they are happening on the Oracle ERP side. As transactions are posting and journals are posting, we capture those transactions that are ready to interface, and we use Data Services to interface that into the SLT layer in SAP. They provide a staging area that they've defined and are continuing to evolve, where we land the data, and then SAP takes it into S4 and posts it into the Universal Journal. Now, along with the basic transaction information like the GL journal information and financial numbers, we're also pulling over the context. I'll take you through an example in a second of the type of information that we pull into the Universal Journal that provides context and identifiers for where that transaction came from. Now, we are not loading everything. Say for a sales order, we're bringing over basic context. But if you want to enable full drill back capability from Universal Journal, once it lands over here in S4, to understand the utmost detail of those transactions and where they came from, we provide a complementary solution that is called Rapid Decision. You may have heard of it. So Magnitude owns Rapid Decision, and it brings over all of the operational data from the Oracle systems, again, in a near real-time manner, just as RTD Stream interfaces in near real-time into Universal Journal. We're bringing over all of the operational data and forming them into best practice data marts in Rapid Decision that can live right in HANA. So as you're posting transactions over in the EBS or JDE or PeopleSoft, we're taking financial data, posting it into Universal Journal. We are also taking over the more detailed information, such as sales order number and who it was shipped to, billed to, and maybe what is the order status and the line detail. That is all housed here. So you never have to leave S4 and your SAP HANA environment to do data analysis, reconciliation, and drill back. That all lives with you in S4. Now, what you can also do is as you implement more and more S4, if you choose to do so, you may retire some of these non-SAP systems. So as you retire them and shut off your JDE instances, all of the operational detail that's been flowing into Rapid Decision will still be here and still provide that historical archive repository of data for analysis, and that will continue to live in your HANA environment. So these are very much complementary products. So your financial data in coming through real-time or near real-time through RTD Stream, and then the operational data and more for the detailed analysis and reconciliation coming through for Rapid Decision. But they are independent products and can be purchased and implemented separately or together. So let's go through a simple transaction flow. I mentioned sales orders. So take a J.D. Edwards sales order process. So from creation of a sales order to shipping goods to printing invoices and going through the financial posting of that invoice into the GL and J.D. Edwards. You have to go through all of that, and then the transaction would be ready to ship over to Central Finance into the Universal Journal. Again, we use Data Services and have embedded all the intellectual property and complexity into this Data Services job to understand where to go find the information in JDE or the other non-SAP systems and post that into the SLT layer, into the interface layer on the S4 side. So what we're also doing, as I mentioned, we're pulling over a lot of the context of that transaction. So the GL batch number, the sales order and invoice numbers, customer and item information. Each transaction type is going to pull a little bit different information over, but we're landing that in the Universal Journal that Karsten mentioned and talked about in his portion to provide value there for reconciliation and full visibility to all of your financial data, not just the SAP slice of it. And as a simple click-through demo here, we've posted sales order number 2947, which became AR invoice 4831 and GL batch number 8453. What you're looking at here is our J.D. Edwards screens. They could be other ERPs like Oracle eBusiness Suite or PeopleSoft, but this would be an example of taking a transaction through the process on the JDE side. RTD Stream is really a background process and in Data Services that captures changes as they're happening. That journal that was just posted along with the details from the sales order and invoice and feeding that into S4. Once it's in S4, you can then see that in any of the screens, Fiori apps, Excel, your trial balances, wherever, even into, BI and business objects or Lumira, if you're accessing the Universal Journal data there. It will all appear there because it's native now in S4. So we can look that up in the screen and see those same identifiers coming over from JDE, and there are more that are not shown in this screen as well. And then, as I mentioned, if you want more than that, if you want to drill back or do BI or analysis of the data reconciliation, Rapid Decision really can be that repository to hold the utmost detail of that operational data that came over. So in this case, we have a report here that is showing sales order information. This is coming from Rapid Decision, right in that HANA database that was shipped over near real time from a JDE system. So we see the basic order detail, who it was sold to, an invoice to, line items, however many lines you've got for that sales order, statuses. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. The Rapid Decision models that we have are really taking over all of the data. And so if you were to open this up in Business Objects or Lumira or a BI platform to build a more robust report, you would have literally hundreds of data items and dimensions and measures to choose from to expose more of that operational data that however much you need for whatever purpose you need. And as I mentioned, rapid decision, I mean, this really is a full data warehouse solution. So that packaged data marts that are formed in best practice manner, populated near real time. And as I mentioned, that we use data services for that data movement. We also expose the BI metadata in business objects. So pre-built universes that give you access in a very quick manner to all of that data that's coming over, and a library of reports and dashboards built within business objects. And we have some content for Lumira as well. Now, once you go to HANA, rapid decision can live on other database platforms, such as SQL, but you can put that into HANA to leverage all of the functionality and benefits of HANA. Karsten mentioned, the universal journal table having potentially hundreds of billions of records and 3-second query time. And so if you load rapid decision into HANA, you can expect, similar performance gains. It will also be potentially in the same HANA instance or environment as your S4 data. So marrying that together through HANA views between your operational systems and your S4 system is possible. And lastly, as I mentioned, there's various transactions that we cover. We interface once it gets in the Oracle systems to the general ledger level, and it's been posted. But each of those postings comes from somewhere. It could be a sales invoice. It could be an AP invoice or a payment. It could be, fixed asset depreciation, or even could be a manual journal. So for each of these transaction types, again, we are experts in the Oracle side and understand where all that data lives. And we can pull all that information and the relevant details and feed that into S4. And just as one example, we really see RTD Stream as enabling strategic value for our customers and our joint customers with SAP who are looking to implement S4. There is a big obstacle of integrating ERP data from Oracle and the non-SAP systems. If you can lower that obstacle and really accelerate the adoption of S4, that's quicker time to value on the S4 side. The near real-time nature of this means that you're feeding your financial data from those non-SAP systems in a near real-time manner. You're not waiting a day or for a nightly load or a weekly load of financial data. You're loading that in potentially near real time. So you don't have to, you can do more of that iterative reporting during a month-end close process. You can then, once you have all of the data facilitated by RTD Stream, you can start doing more transaction processing and more of a centralized close process on S4. Once you do that and get to that level, we've been helping customers for many, many years through our BI solutions and corporate performance management solutions to optimize their financial processes, shorten their financial close. If you can give 2 or 3 days back in the month to business analysts for data analysis versus the closing processes, they can use that time to make better business decisions based on that data. So that's ultimately where you get to very strategic value in many companies, wanting as much time as possible to make decisions based on their data rather than just crunching numbers and trying to close the books. So in summary, to bring it up a level, we've purpose-built this technology based on our deep understanding of the Oracle and non-SAP systems and of the new S4 system working closely with SAP. This is a very quick install to do. It's literally 5 to 10 days to get this up and running. We can pilot it. We've been involved in a few pilots so far alongside SAP, So it can be done to integrate certain elements of non-SAP data as part of those pilots. And it really relieves the customer or the partner of having to have subject matter expertise in the Oracle systems to do that interfacing. The fully productized solution here that we're offering. Like I said, we can enable or help to enable the full value of S4 that Karsten promised up front, consolidating your financials, giving global visibility and transparency to data, and optimizing some of your financial processes, such as the close process, doing more of that sooner on the S4 platform. And then with Rapid Decision, we really can provide you that full drill back and that archive and reconciliation back to the source of detail between your SAP system that holds the financial data, the system of record, and the source ERPs where that came from. Okay, well, that is my part. I will turn it back over to Susan and Darren for Q&A. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you so much for that, John. I'd like to remind our audience members that you can submit questions right now using the purple Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. All right, we've got a couple of audience questions. First question is, how do you bring over all the details in Rapid Decision, or is some of the data summarized?
So that's a great question. I think as John described, we're basically bringing over all the change data capture records on the source ERPs and replicating that directly in near real time, typically 60 or 90 seconds behind real time into the S4 HANA system, into the central journal. And so actually one of the reasons why that becomes such a great opportunity for customers is obviously because we have that level of detail, it essentially becomes an archive solution as and when those customers are looking to, if you like, transition off their legacy non-SAP systems and switch their core booking processes and centralized finance processes to run directly on top of S4. So it provides a transition, provides a great transition path to migrating towards a centralized finance approach.
Thank you, Darren. Next question is, how quickly can you install this solution?
So, as John said, we've been working with a number of customers over the course of this year to deploy. It typically takes 5 to 10 days per installation. So the whole benefit of the solution is a really rapid time to value in terms of implementation cycle. A lot of the variability in terms of deployment time is typically tied to testing processes and deployment and release to production processes. But the solution is prepackaged, and that's really where the benefit is derived from. So, ultimately the path that Carsten laid out, whether it be a sidecar or a centralized deployment, is predicated ultimately in delivering fast time to value for the finance organization. And so we see that as a key value prop that we help enable in terms of delivering data to S4.
Thank you. Next question is, where and how do you perform an ETL process for data from different systems?
So it's a great question. As John introduced, the underlying technology leveraged through the integration process is Data Services, and one of the reasons why we've leveraged the services technology to drive those transformations is because the kinds of transformations are pretty complicated. The way you store data inside, the way that you separate and isolate header and detail information inside a JDE system or inside an Oracle Business Suite system is very different from the way it's expected to be posted in the underlying journal entries in ADOC A. So all that transformation essentially happens in the pipe. and then we post that data directly onto the SLT, the staging area, which then is consumed by the SLT architecture into S4. We have in the past posted directly to the BAPIs, the SAP interfaces to SAP, to S4, but as SAP has rolled out their new architecture, we worked with them on transitioning from to take advantage of the best practices. And the benefit of that is that you get one unified approach, whether you're integrating data from, from legacy Oracle ERPs or JD Edwards systems or other technologies, as well as using the same architecture for replicating your data from your SAP ECC environment. So, one architectural approach, which obviously facilitates not only process optimization, but also reconciliation and adjustment.
Thank you. And just to confirm, this is another question. Just to confirm, the end state is for the users to use the S4 HANA afterwards once the migration from legacy into S4 HANA, or the architecture goes forward basis?
So that's a really good question, and I think the ultimate vision for most finance functions that certainly we've worked with in large CPG organizations or manufacturing organizations is typically to go through a phased approach. So typically, what happens is the customers will start with consolidating, providing one single interface for reporting and consolidation of their financial data on a monthly basis. So using S4 to really enable, if you like, that centralized finance function. Over time, they typically build a roadmap over the coming years, because obviously it can be a fairly significant change for an organization from a process perspective to change where cash management is done or asset management is done or receipting and booking. But over time, they've typically built a plan together with their consulting partners to progressively migrate towards centralized cash management or centralized audit and governance control. And as they go through that process, they essentially use the Rapid Decisions product line as the archive strategy. So, ultimately all the detailed transaction data is resident on the HANA system. And that essentially provides you an audit trail of the historical data as you go through that change. So it's a phased migration, but typically starting with, as Carsten introduced, the sidecar approach, which is where S4 HANA is stood up alongside the existing ERP systems.
Thank you. Next question. Does the Rapid Decision solution require a full Enterprise Edition license for Central Finance?
So Rapid Decision, as opposed, there are two different product lines. There's RTD Stream and Rapid Decision. They both operate very closely or work closely together. The Rapid Decision product line, which is essentially the packaged marks and analytics delivered on HANA or other relational databases like Oracle or SQL, is completely independent, so it doesn't have any prerequisites in terms of central finance requirements. And so we have, many hundreds of customers that have deployed our Rapid Decision product line on top of their HANA or Oracle environments, either on premises or in cloud, without having taken advantage of central finance. Because obviously that solution has been around long, significantly predates the introduction of S4. Having said that, many customers that we're speaking to and working with today view that as sort of a stepping stone towards centralizing their finance processes. So quite often getting, transactional level detail, transparency, and visibility into their in a unified architecture across all of their heterogeneous sources is the first step towards, trying to standardize and centralize their finance approaches.
Okay, next question is, you mentioned that it speeds up a month-end close. How does this speed up close, and how much shorter do we anticipate the close?
Yeah, so close process is probably the single first conversation that comes up in every finance organization that we talk to for obvious reasons. We're actually working as we speak on going live with a project where they have a 5-day close process across 28 different ERPs spread across the world, and their goal is to try and cut just one working day out of their close process, and if they can do that, they can achieve tremendous operational efficiencies, and obviously that drives not only the efficiencies from an organization perspective, but also much clearer transparency in the overall process. So the close process can vary very significantly from organization to organization, depending on the type, the distribution, the number of systems, their own internal processes. But I think the reason why customers turn to us to help accelerate close as kind of the number one use case is ultimately what we see in most cases is those customers have taken sort of very staged batch-based processes for replicating the data and transmitting it for a centralized consolidation process. And because of our near real-time solution, essentially being 60, 90, 120 seconds behind production, as you're entering an adjustment directly in one of the source ERPs in one of your operating units or locations, that data is replicated, 60 seconds behind time into the central journal. And so that low latency ultimately allows you to centralize your functions or get far greater agility in your close process, and really gives you a lot more options for ultimately delivering a faster close to the business.
All right, next question is, what is the process for the mapping of the data, especially customization?
Yeah, another great question. So it varies. It varies a lot from ERP to ERP. As John Hume said, we have a large organization that spends a lot of time really trying to understand and keep up to date with all the progressive enhancements that are made to the ERP infrastructure, whether that's a JD Edwards, an Oracle eBusiness Suite, or a PeopleSoft. As they release a new change, we understand that change. We essentially provide through our solutions updates to the product, so we give upgrade protection to our solutions, which means that as you upgrade, so as a for instance, if Oracle EBS introduced the subledgers, and I think it was 12.2 release. It was a very fundamental change to the way subledger to general ledger postings were executed, and some very significant changes in terms of how you would not only report on that but recognize that and acquire that data. Simply by upgrading our software to the latest version, we provide the upgrade protection to enable you to upgrade to that next release without disrupting what you've delivered in the past, but also taking advantage of new opportunities that may be exposed by that new functionality from a reporting perspective or an integration perspective. So we have a varying degree depending on each system. So for instance, on the Oracle side, we discover things like flex fields automatically and apply a report and enable that for reporting. And we obviously have a wealth of understanding of how typical customizations are made in the systems, and they obviously vary significantly from ERP to ERP. And that's really a big part of the process that we go through in that installation, that 5 to 10 day installation process. The last thing I'll say around mapping, which I think is really important, obviously when consolidating the data into a centralized journal, one of the key requirements is obviously standardizing or mapping your master data common environment. The S/4HANA solution comes with a SAP MDGF, so master data governance finance solution, which we interface with directly. So mappings that are done either directly through MDM, the master data governance solution from SAP, are essentially replicated to cached environments on top of HANA, and we then consume those mappings in our posting process to the ADOC, the central journal. If that hasn't been used, we also provide facilities to support, bulk posting to the mapping process, because obviously you have to, map to a centralized chart of accounts and customers and want to create single views of those environments. And we also have, third option is we also provide our own MDM solution offering, which interfaces closely with, with the RTD stream and rapid decision product lines.
Thank you. Next question is, if vendor invoice payments are processed in central finance, can you send the payment information back to the non-SAP source system to clear the open payables there?
Yeah, another excellent question. I'm sure there are many people that are curious about that same. We have worked with a number of customers. Obviously, we understand the source interfaces back into those operational systems, and so that's certainly something that we help with in a consulting capacity. We haven't productized a solution that does the write back, because typically how that process and how you deal with splitting or consolidating or allocations is very different from deployment to deployment. So the design patterns tend to be significantly enough different that it doesn't, at this stage, we don't have a centralized productized approach for the write back. But as we have a wealth of experience in the source ERPs, we do have the opportunity to identify Delta records directly triggered from the SAP system. We certainly do work with customers to essentially write back and close out invoices or receipt invoices in the underlying source ERP in which they originated.
Thank you. Next question. Does integrating non-SAP data to central finance require a third-party solution?
So does integrating data to finance require a third-party solution? So ultimately, yes, is the short answer, where the data is being required to be sourced from a non-SAP system. So central finance can be, SAP provides a solution or a couple of different architectural options out of the box for integrating data from SAP ECC systems, so from other SAP environments into S/4HANA. But obviously, most of the customers that are looking to employ S/4HANA operate in a heterogeneous environment, and so rather than SAP trying to develop practices and expertise for each of those different ERPs and solutions, they turn to us as a partner to enable, essentially with the expertise, to enable delivery of that data to S4. So technically, if you have the expertise in-house and the capabilities in-house to post to S4 and the knowledge of the underlying ERPs, it certainly is something that can be deployed. Customers turn to us because they typically don't have all the knowledge, the expertise, and they're looking for a fast time to value, as opposed to a many-month cycle of trying to reverse engineer the operational ERPs and then build a process and test the process through to the operational system, versus kind of our packaged out of the box solution that can be live within 5 to 10 days.
Thank you, Darren. Next question is, how is master data integrated through RD?
Yeah, so I think similar to the question I answered earlier, I think we have sort of covered this. Essentially, through the MDGF, we interface, we pick up the interface tables that have been populated. So if you've leveraged that solution for mapping, we do consume that in the post process. And obviously that also provides facilities for workflow and recovery routines. We also have our own MDM offering, which can accelerate some of the initial bulk mapping and some of the hierarchy and management for analytics, especially alongside rapid decisions. So both of those are options, and happy to talk further about how to apply those to your specific use cases.
Okay. And do I have to own data services to use RD?
So the short answer to that one is really simple. Yes, yes, you do have to own data services to interface, but the license is included as part of your HANA license or use case. So it's worth talking to your SAP account managers. The S/4HANA solution incorporates data services as part of that solution offering. So it is required, it is a prerequisite solution, but it's, if you like, it's in the box that a customer would acquire.
Thank you for clarifying that. Next question is, can transactions entered directly in central finance be pushed automatically back to the non-SAP source system?
Yeah, very similar question to the one we had previously. So I think, you know, the short answer to that is we haven't productized a solution to do the write-back process as it's described. You know, whereas John talked about the drill-through approach, SAP has a if your source system is a SAP ECC and that SAP ECC system is then replicated to S4, so you have multiple SAP ECCs that you're consolidating into a S/4HANA solution, and you also have, say, a JD Edwards system that you're consolidating in. But out of the box, the S/4HANA solution comes with a native ability to drill back directly to the transactional detail inside S/4HANA. Using a rapid decision product line, we're able to do essentially provision the same functionality, you know, alongside for the non-SAP source data, so for the data that doesn't originate in SAP ECC. In terms of actual physical write back to close out or receipt or book out, you know, close out an invoice in the originating ERP. As I said, that's something that we work with. We do have customers that we've worked with to do that. We've got a lot of expertise in that space, but it's not a productized solution.
Thank you. And then will RTD pull data from QAD ERP?
It's at the moment we have solutions largely focused on the Oracle suite of ERPs because they're the second largest, the ones that we encounter the most. We're continuing to build out together with actually work very closely with the SAP Benchmark Center to support pilots and pilot engagements of S4. And they leverage us as a resource to help acquire the data in those environments. So we're working closely with them to prioritize connectors and adapters for additional non-Oracle ERPs. We have a fair amount of experience through our connectivity business with a suite of 50 different sets of connectors and sources. And so we have native connectivity to some of those environments that we're happy to support. But at this stage, we don't, through RTD Stream, have a direct offering for that.
Thank you. And then next question. Can rapid decision reside on other databases beyond HANA?
So, you know, as John said, yes, the short answer is yes. You know, obviously you have all the advantages when you're deploying onto HANA of having one integrated environment for both, because ultimately the central journal for S4 resides on HANA. So having rapid decisions on top of HANA means that you can create HANA views and integrate that environment, means you can more easily join that data together. And get kind of unified reporting and drill down to the transactional level detail. But we do absolutely support and have multiple customers on environments such as Oracle and SQL, even have customers actively deploying on environments like DB2. So the short answer to that is yes, and ultimately we're not tied to a specific database platform, although we are only certified on those environments we just described.
Thank you. And can you provide an example of how RTD Stream is being used today?
So typically RTD Stream is ultimately, so we have, let me pick a couple of examples, customers that we have. So some very large, two very large CPG, one CPG and one manufacturing company. Both of them are leveraging RTD Stream to essentially pilot the S/4HANA solution Obviously S4 is a relatively new offering from SAP. It's a pretty strategic offering, and we're seeing a tremendous amount of customers looking to pilot and build out in the, as Carson said, the sidecar approach, and we're being deployed in environments like that. In those environments, typically the first use is really about providing what I view as transparency or detail level transparency of the individual journals in a centralized environment, which is obviously a key benefit of S4. And so the customers that are using our solutions are really using them alongside Rapid Decisions. So they're deploying Rapid Decisions, and they're using RTD Stream to essentially pilot the S4 HANA solution. We have, as John said earlier, we literally have hundreds of customers of Rapid Decision across many different verticals and geographies across the world. And so, we have a wide range of deployments and use cases that, happy to share more detail with on a one-on-one basis.
Thank you for that. And then, why do you use SAP Data Services versus SLT?
So another great question. I think the key answer to that question is pretty simple. Some of the transformation requirements that are necessary to bring together the data from different from the different ERPs into a common form in order to enable posting to the S4 journal, S4 HANA and the A.A central journal are pretty complicated. And so we need a pretty powerful transformation engine. Ultimately, as customers are looking to leverage the solution to feed SAP, we made the decision that that Data Services is the best architecture to enable that level of transformations. As John said, we work very closely with the engineering and product teams in Waldorf, and as the products will evolve, we will continue to evaluate whether SLT has sufficient capabilities to deal with some of the more complex transformations that are necessary, and look to provide either migration paths or upgrade paths to different architectures if that's appropriate. But what we find typically is, Data Services is so widely deployed in our in the SAP customer base, and as a result of which it makes a lot of sense to just leverage that, the existing skill sets and resources that are in place to feed into S4 HANA.
Thank you. And then next question is, because RTD Stream uses Data Services, do we have to buy a license of Data Services from SAP?
Yes, I think we have covered this one. The short answer is it's included if you're in the HANA S4 HANA solution. So it's in the box. A license is required, but it is included in the box.
And how many customers do you guys have?
So across the Magnitude portfolio, we have over 750 customers of our Rapid Decision product lines. We literally have hundreds of deployments, and obviously as RTD Stream is a new offering, it's in pilots, in multiple engagements in pilots today. We expect many of the customers that are customers of SAP and the Rapid Decision product line to migrate to that over time. But we will, we continue to work with customers on piloting and rollout of S4 HANA systems.
All right, and I think that's all the questions we have left. Let's see.
Okay.
Thank you, Darren and John and Carson, for a great webcast. On behalf of ASUG, I'd like to thank Magnitude Software for hosting this webcast, as well as all of you who took the time out of today to attend this webcast. Once again, the recording and the slides from today's program will be posted to the ASUG website, and all registrants will receive an email with the link to those materials. With that, I would like to close today's webcast. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.